Hello there. What a Labour government prison omnishambles. Inmates that have been released early so that Granny and Grandpa can be banged up for years for a few hurty words on Facebook are now heading back to prison as they re-offend. And it's not just the re-offending either. According to the BBC, a quarter of HMP Nottingham prisoners released under the early release scheme were homeless, something that the Chief Inspector of Prisons, Charlie Taylor, said led to their inevitable recall to prison. And now we have the prospect of 5,500 prisoners being let out early in the next few weeks to free prison space up so as to ensure the social media hurty word and shout at police dogs squad can be guaranteed a cell. And all of this is leading to a chaotic and rushed approach to getting prisoners out of cells and into the community so as to replace them with those involved in what I would call minor rioting. But only those rioters who are on the wrong side of the argument, so to speak. And you have to wonder how many inmates who pose a true danger to society have been improperly released due to this chaotic system, made worse by Keir Starmer going over the top with his no bail and lock 'em up for years response to these minor riots. If you want to see real building burning riots, look back to London in 2011. But right now we have total mayhem where control of the most dangerous people in the UK is concerned. No, sorry, the second most dangerous people. The most dangerous out there sit in government right now. And that government, like the previous lot, won't deal with the real problems because they are frightened of asking the questions they need to ask, and terrified of the answers they know they will get. And it's now so bad that the government is on the verge of triggering an even more drastic contingency plan to deal with this sudden prison overcrowding. You'll have heard of Operation Early Dawn, meaning prisoners get let out having only done a fraction of their sentence. Well, we could see the triggering of Operation Brinker, allowing police to hold new offenders in cells for longer than 24 hours before being forced to put them before the magistrates. Something that could lead to defendants being driven around the country in a prison van while a vacant cell is located somewhere, anywhere, on a one-out, one-in basis. How long before the government is imploring us to turn our spare rooms into cells? But this mess is also hampering the ability of the police to make new arrests. They've got nowhere to hold people. And how do they get reoffenders who are out on licence back into jail? So that didn't last long, did it, Keir? So what next, Mr. Starmer? Are you going to send dissenting Brits to Rwanda? Or have them shoved off the cliffs of Dover, maybe? Joking aside, nobody trusts you, Sir Neela, and other than those waiting on the French coast across the Channel into Britain, nobody wants you in power. Straight off the starting blocks you went back on your word and betrayed the elderly, millions of whom will go hungry and cold. But you will make sure the new demographic are housed in heated accommodation with food provided. You've handed out massive pay rises to the members of your union paymasters, causing a jump in their national debt, which we will now have to pay more interest on. And now we read from a report called Reverse Robin Hood by the Institute for Economic Affairs that UK foreign aid has been spent on areas around the world where the people are wealthier than some in our own towns. That one may not be fully on you, Keir, but you and your party were always demanding we pay out foreign aid in full, even if the desperate people of the UK needed it more. Like our hard-pressed pensioners who've had their winter fuel allowance removed do. Vast swathes of people who voted for Labour did so on the basis that it seemed the least worst option. But they're now finding out the truth, aren't they? And those voters that Labour generally relies on for their traditional vote, the working classes, will be deserting Starmer in their droves, as are those of a certain demographic that Labour seems so intent on courting at the moment. But right now that does not help the pensioners and those receiving draconian levels of justice, does it? Anyway, what do the viewers think? Empty the prisons, every man for himself. Well, yeah, that's one way around it. I suppose you just open the doors and let everyone out. But that's not going to help us much, is it? We should have built more prisons under the Tories, arguably. But I don't know. Did we need them back then? As I said, in the 2011 riots, way back then, just after the Tories came in, they did go through this fast-track procedure through the courts and no bail and into prison. But we didn't seem to have this total and utter meltdown which we're seeing today. And the riots were much worse, and I believe the arrests numbers were much greater back then in 2011. Is this just down to Starmer's and his team's complete inability to deal with anything? With Labour in power, it's worse than throwing gas on the fire. Yeah, it does seem that way, doesn't it? They do seem intent on just going overboard everything. Maybe that was the plan. They come in and do drastic things to show everybody how wonderful they are. All it's turned into is a bit of a disaster for them. So, Starmageddon is the right word. That's where we're going. I just can't see how much longer he can survive. And ordinary people I talk to out there, just like me, they're all saying the same sorts of thing. In fact, one of the worrying things, I talked to someone earlier today, who told me that looking around on social media, there are so many people out there who are even frightened to put a union flag on their Facebook page or their social media page because they think they'll be called racists. That's where we're at, ladies and gentlemen, and that's what the woke left and Labour has done for us. It's about time. Well, I'm off to buy a Union Jack tie tomorrow, and I'll probably be wearing that for videos going forward, and a lapel badge. That's what we need. We need some good old-fashioned, nationalism. Let's have some national pride. He thinks he's playing the divide and conquer game, but people are coming together more. Yes, that's what I get. Apart from a few wokey types who just want to divide everything, I think they'll find themselves corralled into their own little echo chamber while the rest of us get on with our lives and ignore them. It's Keir Starmer. I don't know. Is he really trying to divide and conquer? Because dividing and conquering a nation like ours, which is already a cohesive unit, is not a very clever thing to do. Yeah, yesterday where we had that Pakistani arrested in Pakistan, was that an attempt to divide and conquer from someone or some source? I don't know. There's been lots of speculation on that. Where did that really originate from? And I don't know. So, yeah, and it was that misinformation about who conducted the Southport atrocity. I hope all thought prisoners and political prisoners sue the government for millions. Yeah, it's very difficult to sue the government for millions if they are obeying their own laws. It comes down to whether they've actually done it properly. Now, I did look at this refusal of bail thing, where we're told that if a rioter riots, they're not going to get bail. Now, under the ECHR, it has been argued that bail is actually a human right for those who qualify. So refusing bail on a blanket basis may not be in accordance with human rights. Now, I don't know how true that is, but wouldn't it be delicious if the ECHR came back and bit Keir Starmer and his team on the backside? I think that would be great. Oh yes, but not literally, of course, because that's incitement. I think we should all go to live in Russia. Yes, as I said before, Vladimir Putin has offered all the political prisoner types to go across to Russia and take their beliefs with them and all the rest of it. So, yeah, that might be an option. You never know. Now, here's a good question. Are prisons any kind of deterrent? Well, judging by the number of people that do reoffend, then you do have to question that, don't you, in the first place? But what they are doing right now is they're actually being quite successful against ordinary people. Just think about this for a moment. If you're a hardened prisoner or a hardened criminal or someone who doesn't really care, then a prison sentence isn't really going to be a deterrent, is it? Because you'll just carry on regardless and then get out and do it all again. But an ordinary person like me, I'd be absolutely terrified of having to go into prison. And so would most people. Ordinary people. So as soon as you start tapping them and start sending them to prison, all the ordinary people start getting worried. And they start self-censoring. They start hiding away and not saying anything. I think that is more, this is all psychological stuff, nudge unit stuff. Just think about that. Crack down on the ordinary people and they'll stay silent forever. Now, this is escorting migrant boats halfway, as the French do, is contrary to international maritime law. Yeah, I've looked into this and I can see no definitive answer. You see, we do have a problem in that our water abuts directly on French waters, or EU waters as they really are, and there is nothing in between, which is called international water. So that is a problem for us. However, the French do have their own laws. And if you go to sea in a certain size boat with a certain size engine, you're meant to have a license of some sort. And you have to wonder how many of those people traversing the French side of the channel do actually have any sort of license or any training or anything. They are putting all those people at risk, aren't they? So, yeah, I don't know. They're probably breaking a lot of laws, but no one's enforcing them, and that's the problem. Another Labour-created problem with a lot more to come. Well, beautifully put. Yes, it is another Labour problem. We always get there in the end, but it doesn't normally take this short a period. Normally it takes a couple of years and everything sort of slides, but they seem to have come in and just jumped off the cliff and taken us with them. I do sort of despair of the situation we're in, and if they think doing more of the same is going to mend everything, I think they do have a big shock coming to them. Now here's an interesting observation. Will they be releasing Alex Belfield? I forgot. He's too dangerous to the public. Yes, he was that social media influence, on YouTuber who got locked up for whatever he did. I won't go into details, but is he on the early release list? Will we see him back on YouTube in the near future? Jail is a lad's holiday. Well, I wouldn't like to be in jail on that sort of lad's holiday. And the other side of it is that I gather the control of the jails, if you get my drift, is not fully in the hands of those who you think it is. Like the warden and all all the wardens and all the rest of it. I just worry about that, having read lots of reports and things of what goes on. And when the people, as a Sky presenter said just recently, when those people who are told by everybody, by a judge, that they are far right and dangers and all the rest of it, when they turn up in those jails, yeah, you get my drift on that one. So I wouldn't want to go in there. Please apply political refuge in the States. Well, yeah, there's been talk about that. People are lobbying Elon Musk and Donald Trump to say to offer asylum for people who are coming from the UK to avoid Keir Starmageddon. Jail is a proper laugh. Yeah, I'm not sure about that one, as I've just said. I really am not sure. I don't think it's as much of a laugh for ordinary people as people might think. How can protesting about the illegal practice of entering a nation be illegal? Well, what they've done, to be absolutely clear, a lot of these reports that you're seeing about someone putting something on Facebook and being arrested, if you read further down the report, it says, oh, and by the way, that's after he bumped into the police officer, if you see what I mean, or if they got a bit sort of up close and pushed someone or someone close by, then that's deemed as assault, and they go in and all the hurty words come out as part of the whole thing, just to beef it up into something that they can justify locking someone away for a lot of time. Looking at some of the altercations, you would think that the people they're looking at, you'd give them a 2-month suspended and send them home so they can get on with their lives, or at least recover part of their life, because getting a sentence like that is quite damaging to your career prospects. So it's not something you should choose to do lightly at all. Yep, now this is a good point. You are obliged to assist vessels in distress to the nearest port of safe haven. Yes, that is what it says. So if there is a safe port 7 miles away on the French coast, you shouldn't go hopping across to Dover or wherever to then land those people. However, there are reports, which I cannot sort of prove because they don't like to make them public, that when a French vessel approaches one of those boats in French waters, they get what is called agitated on board the boat. I'll leave you to think about that. If they get agitated and become a danger to each other, to the children on board, and to the crew of the French vessel calls the British vessel over, because that calms the occupants of the dinghy down. That's why. Yeah, and meanwhile people are happy to pay with cards and not cash. You are complying with WEF digital currency plan. Sad. Yeah, 2 thoughts on this, which I've mentioned before. I'm totally against central bank digital currencies. I think they're a menace to our freedoms and to society. However, just think about it. If everything went through central bank digital currencies, how much big crime would there be? And I think this is one of the things that the establishment is looking at. if we're all forced to use central bank digital currencies, crime would be extremely difficult. Money laundering would be almost impossible. The only way you'd be able to commit crime is to steal things. But even then, that would be very hard. Because if you steal something to sell it on, you can't sell it on. So yeah, there are two sides to this. Somewhere in the middle, there is an answer. Really is. Somewhere in the middle, there's an answer. Yeah, well, yeah, central bank digital currency would get rid of the black economy almost overnight. There'd be no paying people for things that weren't taxed properly, for example. So, yes, but I'm totally against it. But I think there must be a middle road where we can still use cash, have our freedoms, and tighten up on some of these other areas. Here we go. I am a 48-year-old grandma, and they locked me up for 38 hours, and I'm out on bail. Well, good that you're out on bail, and I hope you've taken real good legal advice of your own. Because it's most important that you don't just go with the first person that talks to you on these matters. Like the duty solicitor, that's just one avenue, and if you just take that avenue, then I don't know. I'm not going to comment further on that, because a lot of those duty solicitors do a good job, but I do sometimes worry because they're at the behest of the police. The police call them in to help you. I can get a phone for the right money in prison. Yeah, that's also a bit of a problem, isn't it? We've got cases where drugs and phones get into prisons on a regular basis, taken in by drones and things like that. So you don't even need to bribe anyone these days. You just drop it in the right place and someone can pick it up. That comes down to, I think, we don't pay the prison service enough. If you want someone to look after the most vicious and some of the most devious people on the planet, you need to pay people so you get good people who are going to stick at the job, stay with it, and then you don't make it woke. You don't make it into a you must treat them with kid gloves environment, because you won't get it reversed on you if anything ever happens in there, if ever an internal strife. So no, it needs to be clever people who can handle themselves, who are looking after these people. And I'm not sure we've got that at the moment. I've never been inside a prison. No, I haven't. Not even to visit. I might have to make an effort to go and do something like that at some stage. But yeah. Yeah, and this is a big major problem. We've got nutters running about with large, sharp instruments. Yeah, and those sharp instruments at the moment are sharpened pens being held by bloody politicians. And they're really making a hash of all of this, aren't they? But no, you're right. There are so many people, you just see it on Twitter videos, loads of them, running around openly carrying those devices that they carry. Or they can just get them out their pocket, and they carry around lumps of wood and all the rest of it, and there's no one there, no one at all to stop them. Not even for the younger ones' parents, or these, how about these community leaders? You know, the ones that police are always talking to. The ones that advise them. What are those community elders and leaders doing to stop all this? You have to wonder, don't you? Now, this is sad, but I'm so afraid. I'm in Scotland and I'm watching what's happening to you guys. I'm housebound. Yeah, people shouldn't feel that way in the modern UK. But they do, because this is Keir Starmer's modern UK, as I've talked about before. He doesn't care about advancing in technology or advancing in anything other than advancing diversity and DEI. That's the only things that matter to these despots. They should be removed at the first democratic opportunity. Hink Van Het Internet, thank very much for your contribution. Thank you very much. Here's a good one. How can shouting at a police dog be an offence? Yes, as I said earlier, when you look through the full details of some of these, you find out that some other event took place, that the person that was arrested was seen to do something else as well, which could have involved bumping into someone or something like that. Or the police thought they had, or thought they saw them do it. But shouting at a police dog, I'm not sure is that much of a crime, because firstly, the dog doesn't care what you're shouting at it. And also, having seen them, when I was in Weymouth, I went past some cars, 3 police cars, and they had 6 dogs in that. And that was the Weymouth event that I did a video on a while ago, where they said there was all the trouble, when in actual fact it was a bit boisterous. No one, as far as I can see, actually got hurt from what I saw, although one police officer was punched in the face. But I didn't see that, and I saw nothing like that. I saw lots of loud people making their voices heard. However, the police dogs, I look at them, they are not pets. They are not pets. They are not soft and cuddly. In fact, there was a video a few days ago of one of them was in the middle of some goings on and turned round and bit another police officer quite hard, and it looked really quite painful. These things are not pets, and I sometimes look at them and going, are we really using these against some people who are engaged in what I would call a soft version of rioting? If someone comes at you with a weapon, then yes. But otherwise, you've got tasers, you've got the old truncheons. Do you really need a police dog? I don't know, in some of these circumstances. It does look a bit of overkill. And it's only one side that gets the attention of the police dogs, isn't it? Right, I'll have one last comment if I can find a good one. Yes. The offence is you upset someone who is oppressing you. That's right. You're being oppressed. You're being told that you're racist. You're being told you have to get back in your box, be quiet, and do as you are told. And when you say something, you have to go to prison for dissenting. And that's the sort of direction we're travelling in. Because there will come a time when they say, well, to head off these riots, to head off any even protest, we need to round up people who are even heading in that direction. And that's when the old thought police get on to Twitter, and you've tweeted out saying, oh, I'm thinking about going to that big London event next week. Knock, knock, knock. We don't think it would be a good idea for you to go there. And that's where we're going right now. Yes, and one of the early comments I saw was about, was a little girl attacked in Dorset? Yes, and I'll be doing a video on that one in the next couple of hours. Okay, I won't go into it now because I haven't checked it fully through, but it did happen. Oh, thank you to Forest Patriot for your contribution. And thank you very much, everybody. I've got to go off now and get something to slake my thirst. Thank you very much.